Which team had the greatest collection of receivers in a single season in NFL history? This isn't the greatest duos or which wide receiver core had the greatest stats. We're talking about a QB's ultimate dream, the units that in one given season gave their signal caller more options than he knew what to do with. Make sense? Okay, with that said, we kick things off in the Mile High City, 2013, the year Peyton Manning set the all-time single-season TD pass record with 55, so you know his wideout core was something special. It was so special, Wes Welker was the number 3. The number 3 on that squad, putting up over 70 receptions, over 700 yards, and double-digit TDs.
12th play of the drive. Pump and throw! Wes Welker! Touchdown! Denver!
Welker had made his way to Denver after already making 2 All-Pro squads and 5 straight Pro Bowls in New England, so his resume spoke for itself. But when he was covered, Manning just turned his sights on Eric Decker, who put up almost 1,300 receiving yards and 11 TDs that year. And he wasn't even the go-to guy. That distinction going to Demaryius Thomas, who went for over 1,400 yards while leading all NFL wide receivers with 14 scores.
The long 3, going deep. Oh, he's got Thomas! Goodbye! Touchdown!
Thomas would go on to average nearly 1,200 yards per season from 2012 to 2018 and notch 4 Pro Bowls. In 1989, 3 of Washington's homegrown pass catchers emerged to form the league's finest receiving unit. The anchor to the trio, 32-year-old Art Monk, who put up an 1,100-yard season while scoring 8 TDs. Remember, Monk ended up in the Hall of Fame as one of the best receivers the game has ever seen.
Ripping his back, looking for Monk on the out pattern. He's got it at the 27, out of bounds at the 23. Art Monk is now number 1. The most prolific pass receiver in the National Football League's history.
Then you had Gary Clark on the other side. He was an All-Pro in 1987 and accrued 4 Pro Bowl selections while averaging just under 1,000 yards over his 11-year career. He was the one with the most receiving yards on that team that season, going for over 1,200. But Mark Rippon had one more 1,000-yard guy that year in Ricky Sanders, who burst onto the scene with over 80 catches and over 1,000 yards.
Plenty of time.
And he's going to go for a big one. He's got Sanders open. Touchdown!
The 3 wideouts, dubbed the Posse, were the first wide receiver trio in history to each record 1,000-yard seasons in the same year. Now, stats don't always tell the whole story, especially when you rewind in time as we're doing for our number 8 unit, which also comes to us via Washington. 2 decades before the Posse came along, it was a group led by Hall of Famer Charlie Taylor, who racked up over 1,100 yards and 12 touchdowns on a league-leading 72 receptions. Those numbers a rarity in that era. Taylor was one of the best. He made the 3rd of his 8 career Pro Bowls that season. Then next, you had Bobby Mitchell, another Hall of Famer, who joined Washington in 1962 and secured an All-Pro spot while leading the league in yardage in consecutive years. In '66, he racked up over 900 yards and 10 scores.
Jurgensen rallies the Redskins with a perfect strike to Mitchell.
Rounding out this group was Jerry Smith, a bruiser who had nearly 700 yards and 6 touchdowns, but he was so big, he eventually converted to tight end, and he was still so good at that position that he made All-Pro along with 2 Pro Bowl trips. In Week 12, this bunch made their lasting mark on history, dumping 72 points on the New York Giants, an all-time regular season record. While any trio with Jerry Rice is bound to be a good one, flanking the GOAT with J.J. Stokes and a fellow Hall of Famer in Terrell Owens put the 1998 Niners into hyperdrive. A string of fortuitous injuries helped forge this bunch. Stokes missed most of the '96 season, allowing Owens to blossom alongside Rice. The following year, Rice went down, opening the door for Stokes to flourish with T.O.
Ruckenmiller has time. Throwing, complete to Stokes, touchdown!
When all 3 were healthy in '98, they took the league by storm. The trio scored in every single game as Stokes notched career highs with 770 yards and 8 touchdowns. Meanwhile, Rice returned to form with over 1,100 yards and 9 TDs. And Owens, he was the big play guy of the group, 14 touchdowns, over 1,000 yards on just 67 catches.
This is amazing. Darrell Owens was having a rotten day, but on one play here, does he make up for it?
T.O. would go on to earn 5 All-Pro selections and finish his career 3rd all-time in receiving touchdowns and yards.
Mr. Elroy, Crazy Legs Hirsch is touchdown bound.
Now to the 1950s Rams. First, you start with Elroy Crazy Legs Hirsch, who at the time was the Jerry Rice of that era. In 1951, Hirsch delivered one of the greatest receiving seasons in history with over 1,400 receiving yards at a time when that was almost unheard of, and it helped send the Rams to an NFL title. Just a year earlier, his teammate Tom Fears put on a show of his own, leading the league with 84 receptions and over 1,100 receiving yards.
Throws an arching pass upfield. Lazy Tom Fears gathers it in on a dead run and races all the way to score.
Then in 1954, Bob Boyd's play put this group over the top as Boyd broke out with a 1,200-yard season on his way to an All-Pro nod. The Rams deployed one of the most well-rounded passing attacks the league had ever seen at that point, as all 3 caught at least 500 yards and 3 scores. And Fears missed 2 games, otherwise they would have all had at least 700 yards. They became the first franchise in history to roster 3 receivers with 1,000-yard seasons in their career. Of course, paring down this list to just 10 teams was no easy task, and several impressive receiving groups just missed the final cut. Dan Marino was the headline in 1984, but his supporting cast received high marks for their production too. The Pro Bowl duo of Mark Clayton and Mark Duper averaged over 1,300 yards and 12 scores, while former All-Pro Nat Moore rounded out this formidable squad in his 11th season. 2007's unstoppable combination of Randy Moss and Wes Welker formed a record-setting offense and helped lead the Pats to the only 16-0 regular season. While this duo was one of the best ever, no other receiver on the roster saw a Pro Bowl appearance throughout their careers, pushing this group just outside the top 10. How about the 2008 Cardinals? Surefire Canton resident Larry Fitzgerald earned the only All-Pro season of his career, while Anquan Bolden showed out with one of his 7 career 1,000-yard seasons. But like the Patriots, this cast didn't have the depth to make the final list. Speaking of that list, let's resume our countdown at number 5 with a stop in Indianapolis. Give Peyton Manning an all-time cast of downfield threats, and what do you get? How about a performance by a trio of wideouts that had never been accomplished before or since?
He's got it! Manning's got the record! Peyton Manning has captured a piece of NFL history!
By 2004, Hall of Famer Marvin Harrison was already a marquee wideout, catching a record 143 passes 2 years earlier. Then in 2004, he put up 15 touchdowns with over 1,100 yards, garnering him the 6th of his 8 straight Pro Bowls.
2nd and 3. And they go for the record, and Harrison has it.
Here he catches the ball down and drag that right foot. That should be a record.
It should be. That's beautiful.
Then put Reggie Wayne on the other side of him. Wayne caught 12 touchdowns and posted the first of his 7 consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. Wayne would go on to receive 1 first-team All-Pro and 6 Pro Bowl selections. Both he and Harrison are among the top 10 in all-time receptions and yards.
2nd and 10, going deep, and it is one-handed and caught by Reggie Wayne along the sideline. Tremendous catch.
And then in the slot, you had veteran Brandon Stokely, who enjoyed his most productive year in 2004, setting career highs with 1,077 yards, 10 TDs, making the Colts the only team in history to have 3 receivers surpass the 1,000-yard mark and catch double-digit touchdowns in the same season. Harrison and Wayne would make it into the argument for greatest tandem of all time, and Hall of Famers Chris Carter and Randy Moss would be right there too. Their play in 1998, a shining example of why. Carter was already an all-decade talent. He was a lock to put up a 1,000-yard season at that stage in his career, which he did in '98. Then you add Jake Reed, who only had 474 yards that year, but he missed 5 games. And remember, Reed also had become a steady 1,000-yard guy. He had notched 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons coming into that season.
Chris Walsh, and there's the fade to Reed, and Reed holds on for the touchdown.
So the Vikings already had two of the game's best wide receivers heading into 1998, and then they go ahead and draft Moss, and all he does is put up the best rookie year ever for a receiver, over 1,300 yards and 17 touchdowns while leaving a trail of defensive backs in his wake.
Throwing it back to Cunningham, the old flea picker, and open is Randy Moss, and in the end zone is a Minnesota touchdown.
Moss received the first of his 4 All-Pro honors, while Carter put up another of his 8 consecutive 1,000-yard Pro Bowl efforts. Moss retired with the second most touchdowns and 4th most receiving yards in history. Carter places 4th in total scores and 6th in all-time receptions. While lacking in high-profile names and monster stat lines, the 2011 Packers receiving corps was deep. Reigning Super Bowl MVP Aaron Rodgers had no choice but to spread the ball around to his 5 incredible pass-catching talents.
First down, Rodgers, he's open. Inside the 40, Jordy Nelson. Touchdown, Packers.
Jordy Nelson headlined the group, hauling in a whopping 15 touchdowns while going for over 1,200 yards, the only 1,000-yard receiver in the group. Pro Bowler Greg Jennings came close, putting up 950 yards and 9 scores. But they also still had Donald Driver, a Packer since 1999 and responsible for 7 1,000-yard seasons and 3 Pro Bowls. Throw in James Jones into the mix too. He would lead the league with 14 scores the following year. And for good measure, the Packers drafted Randall Cobb that year.
From the 32-yard line, over the middle, that is caught. Here's Cobb, the rookie inside the 10. Touchdown Packers, and Randall Cobb will do his first Lambeau leap.
All 5 receivers have at least 45 career touchdowns, while Nelson, Jennings, and Driver have amassed over 8,000 receiving yards. The 2010 Steelers were another team that you had to share the wealth with. Ben Roethlisberger had the luxury of throwing to 2 playoff heroes and 3 budding young stars. Hines Ward was a 2-time Pro Bowl champ and already Pittsburgh's all-time leader in receptions, receiving yards, and touchdowns. Antoine Randall L., who returned to Pittsburgh for his final season in 2010, was also part of that 05 title run, as he and Ward made huge plays on the game's biggest stage.
Little toss. Here comes a gadget play. Randall L. He can throw. He was a quarterback in college. And he's thrown a touchdown to Hines Ward in the Super Bowl.
But neither of them were even Big Ben's #1 target that year. It was second-year pro Mike Wallace who led the team with over 1,200 yards and 10 scores. He would go on to average around 800 yards and 6 TDs for his career. But what really made that group special was Pittsburgh's draft haul of Emmanuel Sanders and Antonio Brown. Sanders would have multiple 1,000-yard seasons, 2 Pro Bowl appearances, and a Super Bowl ring. Meanwhile, Brown would need just a year to blossom into one of the league's premier pass catchers.
Antonio Brown! He is a one-man wrecking crew! Touchdown Steelers! And the somersault to boot.
He nails it all, even the dismount.
Between 2011 and 2018, he was unstoppable, averaging nearly 103 catches, 1,400 yards, and 10 touchdowns per season, while leading the league in all those categories at least once and earning 4 straight All-Pro selections. That team, though, had ridiculous options available to them no matter what down or situation they found themselves in. But no wide receiver corps put on a show quite as prolific as the greatest show on turf did. In 2000, Marshall Faulk may have dominated on the ground for that team, but it was the fearsome foursome of Isaac Bruce, Torrey Holt, Azazir Akeem, and Ricky Prohl that proved to be unstoppable through the air.
First down, Kurt Warner back to work, play action, pump fakes. He's got him. Near sideline, Isaac's open. He's got it, and he'll score. Yeah. 5, touchdown, Isaac Bruce.
66 yards on that puppy.
Bruce, a Hall of Famer, enjoyed a career year with over 1,400 yards and 9 TDs, while Holt led the NFL with 1,635 yards and secured the first of his 7 Pro Bowl nods. Both averaged over 1,000 yards and 6 scores during their careers in St. Louis. But if they weren't hard enough to stop, defenses also had to worry about the speedster Akeem, who also posted his best statistical season with 734 yards and 4 scores.
Warner back to pass, fires right side, got Akeem. He's got a first down and more. Akeem in the open field to midfield. He's at the 40, 30, down to the 20, the 10, 5, touchdown Zahir Akeem, an 80-yard dash.
And then there was Prohl, who didn't blow up the box score like the others did, but that wasn't his role. He was there to pick up a lot of those key short third downs, and he was the master at it. Prohl played for 5 teams over his 17-year career, accruing nearly 9,000 yards and 54 touchdowns. The 2000 Rams receivers, the ultimate group of complementary players amassed on one roster.